Hey guys, Hector Castillo, Poppy from girlshace.com, here to tell you that I'm an emotional fucking wreck. Kidding. Not really. All right, so are you too emotional? So this video hits close to home. It's kind of like if you want to hear why being a drug addict or doing a lot of drugs or drinking a lot of alcohol is a bad thing, who do you want to hear this from? Someone who's never done a lot of drugs or drank a lot of alcohol and had a problem with it, they're debilitated their entire life and they can't hold normal relationships or a normal job and they just go insane because of their emotional instability? That's the person you want to learn from, because what they tell you is, hey, I've done this shit and it's a bad thing. And so I'm here to tell you that being too emotional with women is a bad thing to an extent, because I've been there. I'm very emotional when it comes to women. I have, partly because of, childhood traumas, abandonment issues, what the fuck ever, I was born, whatever karma I was born with in this incarnation that I have. I have a predilection for being very attached to the affection of women. Usually it's if they give me a sex or not. Like, I actually had a lover who's a psychiatrist, and she kind of explained, she understood that I see sex as intimacy. And this is what a lot of women who have, daddy issues or whatever, they see sex as like affection. So they seek sex with a lot of guys, and they tend to be very promiscuous because of their damaged past. Now, this doesn't mean that, of course, because you're damaged, you're promiscuous. You can be promiscuous for 1,000 different reasons. But definitely I know that I have a predilection for being very attached to if women give me intimacy and sex, and I count that as they care about me or I'm of value. And so I attach a lot of my emotional security and emotional stability around whether or not women are giving me that intimacy. And this has started since childhood and has extended into my adult life, of course. And because I've seen these patterns of behavior where I'm very volatile emotionally, whether or not women are receiving me how I would hope they would receive me, and if they are giving me that affection and acceptance, I know that it can be very toxic, and I know that it can be very, very damaging to not only my mental health, but also my relationships with these women, and I can fuck up a lot of things that would be good, but I ruin it because I have these problems in my head and in my heart. And so when you're too emotional with women, you need to find a way to curb that, right? You got to curb your enthusiasm and you got to curb your emotionality when it comes to women. And so I want to make this video for all the guys out there who tend to be a bit over emotional, but when it comes to either rejection, fear of rejection, right? You can't even approach women. Well, that's just, you need to grow some balls and do it. But you do approach women and then you get hurt by the rejection, or you do approach them, you go on a date, but then they don't want to sleep with you, so you get very hurt. Or what happens with a lot of guys, this is for the small percentage of guys who are actually getting a lot of lays, what I've noticed is most of the men who are really good with getting sex from women, they tend to be very emotional. Now, there's positives to being emotional, I'll talk about that, but a lot of guys who I know who are high lay count players, fuckboys, whatever you want to call it, lovers, seducers, they tend to be very good at getting the sex, but when it comes to maintaining longer relationships or a longer seduction where it requires you to be a bit emotionally stable, because you have to kind of hold your nuts when there is a lot of turmoil, where she's playing games, where she's not responding, where she's being late when she's responding, she's flaking, they tend to run into trouble. And I've noticed this myself. I'll react very, very erratically. I'll get mad that a girl's flaking. I'll get mad that she's not responding on time. If I am sleeping with her, et cetera, I tend to respond badly. So when you notice yourself reacting so negatively, you need to find a way to curb that and to stabilize yourself. But at the same time, for the guys out there who are perhaps not emotional enough. I know a lot of guys who are just stiff planks of fucking wood where they don't have any emotionality with women. And so they're lacking the ability to create a very strong connection with women. Then what you need to do is you need to increase your emotionality to the extent where you're actually having fun, right? Because seduction is about emotions. It's about her feeling connected, her feeling lust, her feeling fun. And sometimes even a small amount of lovable suffering. I don't know how to put it exactly, but a love anxiety, because a lot of what we call love and attraction is actually somewhat a lack of fulfillment, and so we chase that. And there can be obviously negative permutations of this, but I do want you to find a middle ground, and this is something that I still struggle with. You need to find a middle ground where you're being emotional enough with women that you're having an effect on them and you're actually passionate enough to go after them, right? Because if you have no emotions about women, you're not even going after them. You're just like, I don't care, right? And at that point, you really wouldn't be watching these videos because you don't give a shit about women. And if you have that problem, it's probably a good problem, actually. You can avoid all the suffering in the world. Most of the suffering in the world comes from lack of money or lack of intimacy and love. And so you can cut half of that away from your life, and you can just focus on other things in life. And if that's your problem, then I salute you. But for those of us who definitely do desire women and do lust after women, you do need to know how to become emotional enough to have an effect on them, but not so emotional that you're damaging your chances with them and damaging your long-term relationships with them, and also you're damaging your mental health. So I want to go through some strategies that I've learned on how to not be too emotional with women so that you can seduce them and get them to bed and have relationships and not be a total fucking emotional wreck. So I have two main options where you can be enough but not too much and not fuck everything up. So that's huge writing. Holy fucking shit. Okay, let's redo that. Okay, you can be cold or you can be hard. That's what she said. Okay, so being cold is the option that most people go for. So whether you're a man or a woman, right? You could be a girl watching this and you know exactly what I mean by being cold. You go after someone, you have them, you don't have them, it doesn't work out, it never worked out in the first place, it does work out, and you know, you are together for a year and then you find out he's been married the entire time or engaged or has a girlfriend, and you get butthurt and you know, brokenhearted, or you do date and then he breaks up with you for another woman, whatever it is, right? Guy or girl, we all know what it's like to encounter pain, and when we encounter pain, what's our first thought? My heart has been hurt and I'm gonna hide it. That's cold. Now, cold works. This is the method of most of the popular figures in our media. Most of our, yeah, be a bad bitch, slay girl, yeah, I don't give a fuck. I'm just so pretty and I don't give a shit. All the boys want me and I don't want them. That kind of attitude, or the guys are like, I don't fucking care about these hoes. I just want to fuck them. Yeah, I got no love for these hoes. That kind of attitude, that's cold. Every guy I've met who has this method, I can read people well because I've been there and I can see that they're just playing games. They're just bullshitting. But here's the thing, it can actually work, because if you're putting on the front, guess what? People, unless they're really good at reading people, don't know the difference between genuine detachment, I guess would be a good way to put it, and genuine pain that is being masked by cold behavior. So cold behavior is the people who act too cool for you. Yeah, nice to meet you, man. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I only hang out with the people who are cool. If she doesn't like me, I'm never gonna text her again. Yeah, whatever. I fucked her and she's begging me for a relationship. Fuck that bitch. That kind of behavior. That's cold. Now, it works. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna tell you the fucking truth. It works, but it doesn't have a lot of long-term potential because it's hard to keep up that act. It's hard to lie to other people, right? It's easier than lying to yourself, but it's hard in and of itself. But then the real struggle is lying to yourself. And truly, if you lack complete self-awareness, you can pull this off. But anyone with even a glimmer of self-awareness is going to, at some point, realize, okay, I think I'm being fake. I think I'm hiding from true intimacy. So this can work, but it doesn't work as well as being hard does. Being hard is going to work in the long term because what you're doing is you're exposing yourself to the pain that you're gonna get from being too emotional with women. And like I said, I'm the best example, but also the worst example, but that makes me the best example. I'm very emotional with women, and thereby, through my experiences, I've learned that being so emotional is going to hurt in the short term. You go to the gym, you go to boxing practice, you train in whatever skill that you're doing, and it fucking sucks. But 6 months later, 1 year later, 2 years later, 10 years later, you're a fucking boss. And now what you have is these people who are playing too cool, they were kind of getting some results, right? But the people who were truly trying to become tough and hard, they were allowing themselves to go lower and lower with small bits of improvement, but then they started doing that. They started allowing the pain to enter their consciousness and their heart and to truly harden them because they learned the genuine lessons that these people were hiding from. So you're romantic with women, you have all these ideals about women, you're very sensitive emotionally, you're needy, you get attached, blah, blah, blah. But then as you encounter the pain, you start to realize, okay, that level of allowing someone to dictate my happiness based on their response to my behavior and their evaluation of me as a human being was a bit much. I need to cut that back. But you're not cutting back out of like, I need to hide myself. You're cutting back out of, okay, that was a bit much. Let's calm down a little bit. And what happens is when you cut back, instead of there being a heart that wasn't fully exposed, there's just an emptiness. That's what I want you to become. Empty, but not in a bad way. I know that this emptiness seems like a bad word, but in Buddhism there's a word called shunyata, and this is the essence of all existence. All existence eventually, if you cut down things into their constituents, you keep finding that there's emptiness. You just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper, and there's nothing, but it's not nothing. It just seems like nothing because we don't know what's there. But if you keep cutting down, what you do is you eliminate the extremities, and then you allow this singularity, this point of who you are emotionally and your self-identity to become smaller and smaller and smaller. And what happens is when you make this target really small, it's hard to hit it, and it misses. So your ego basically gets raped to death. And so you just keep getting beat and fucking punched and cut and fucking screwed in every way possible. But because you're learning your lessons, now you have to learn your lessons. You can't just be a fucking idiot like, I love every girl and I'm gonna give my heart to her, and you don't learn your lesson. You're just being an idiot. But if you pay attention to the lessons you're learning, you get hurt, you get hurt, you get hurt, and then you start realizing that I don't need to give so much of myself. I can give enough that I'm being exciting and I'm being fun. I'm a human being with passion and some sort of life force, but not so much that I'm depending on their validation for my happiness and fulfillment. And so you become strong in the long run because you just slowly empty yourself, but in a good way, in a biblical sense and an enlightenment sense. And so this is the method that I would recommend. Now, you need to, if you're really new to this, you should be a little bit careful. Don't throw yourself too deep into things. But let's say you like this girl a lot and she's probably not good for you. Go ahead, date her, get in a relationship with her, go for it. She's probably gonna fuck your shit up, right? I have tons of friends, they're like, I really like this girl. I'm like, I can tell you she's bad news, but then they try to get in a relationship with her and everything fucks up and things go to hell. And then they learn their lesson and I'm like, what did I tell you? But they didn't know. I was just speaking words. They didn't actually know what I was talking about. Then once they see it, they're like, oh, okay, that kind of person's probably not good for me. Then they learn their lesson, and then they learn it again and again and again, and then eventually you start finding healthy relationships and you start having a healthy outlook on sex and dating and seduction. So this is the method that I would recommend to everyone, to allow yourself to be vulnerable and allow yourself to be emotional. So are you too emotional with women? It's okay. Keep doing it. And then once you learn your lessons, you're just naturally not gonna be emotional. You're not gonna be cold, you're just gonna be empty, but in a good way. Now, for the last part of this video, I want to really, really highlight, being emotional can be really good with women. Now, there's some guys out there who are just naturally non-emotional. They're just like, yeah, what's up, cool, yeah. That's fine, that works for them. If you don't have that predisposition, if you can't, for me, if I force myself to be like too much of this, I go crazy. Like I have to express myself, I'm too creative. So I had to go through this method and it took a lot of time to get to this point, and I'm still learning, of course. But now I can be really emotional, but I know based on all the patterns I've seen in behavior, like, oh, she's reacting like this, I need to cool it. I need to not send so many emojis over text. I need to not be so excited to see her. I don't need to ask so many questions. I can back off, but it's not like I'm afraid. It's just like, this is not the right thing to do. I'll contain myself a bit. But I still have that capacity to be emotional enough to be like, hey, what's up? How are you? Right? Whereas the other guy is gonna be like, hey, what's up? Right? I'm gonna be excited. Hey, wow, you're really beautiful. And then she's like, yeah, thanks. I'm like, oh, okay. She's not with me on that level, so I'm gonna back off. But it's out of knowledge, not fear. And then that's gonna allow me in the long run to have more fun. I'm seducing, right? It's seduction. You know, there's pickup and then there's seduction. I'm actually seducing women. I wanna have a great time with them. I want them to be excited. I want them to be passionate. I want them to be like excited to be in bed with me. I want them to be excited to be in a relationship with me. And then we do get in a relationship, I'm gonna play it well. Still have good strategy, still have your, you know, your ways of being. You gotta have fun with it, because you're not having fun, there's no fucking point to any of this. So are you too emotional with women? If you are, it's okay. If you're not, then you don't need this video. Or maybe you do need to inject a little bit of emotion in your life and find some way to be passionate about things. But if you're too emotional, which is the vast majority of guys watching this video, that's your problem. You need to learn how to cut it down. But the only way you're gonna learn how to cut it down is by approaching a lot of women and getting with them and not getting with them and really not getting with them because you got rejected and you're heartbroken and thrown on the floor and fucking stomped on, and it's gonna fucking suck. But remember, think long game, think the big game. And if you think with the big game, with the big dick, you're gonna get to the big dick. But if you think with the little dick, with the cold method, you're gonna end up being effective, but you're not gonna quite extend yourself, right? And be able to ejaculate when you have a truly big cock, because you've trained yourself to be truly hard. So make yourself hard by going through the pain, enduring the pain, and then becoming better in the long run, because yes, you were emotional, but you were willing to withstand the punishment of being too emotional. And in the end, you became empty, but in a good way. And now you have healthy relationships with cool women, not toxic, damaged bitches. Okay, this is Dr. Castillo, Poppy from girlchase.com. Hope you enjoyed the video. Follow me on Instagram, like, subscribe, ring the bell, and go fuck yourself, because I love you.